just want to get into this Thanksgiving origin story and explain a little bit about why I personally do not partake in this so-called holiday. Whether you know it or not, majority of these holidays are based on mostly the war victories against the original people, not only in this country but around the world. They're celebrated by the pilgrims and colonists who won different victories over our people and claiming different lands that we had and that we showed them. The fact is, these holidays are basically to celebrate, especially this Thanksgiving holiday, would be like if Hitler had won and the so-called Jews celebrating the Holocaust with Hitler and the Nazis. That's my perspective on it. Now, the thing about this Thanksgiving, it was started by those at Plymouth. Right, and they got a picture here from 1925. New England and Virginia colonists originally celebrated days of fasting as well as days of Thanksgiving, thanking God for blessings such as harvest, ship landings, military victories, or the end of drought. See what I'm saying? They were celebrating military victories, as you can see there. These were observed through church services accompanied with feasts and other communal gatherings. The event that Americans commonly call the first Thanksgiving were celebrated by pilgrims after their first harvest in the New World in November 1621. The feast lasted 3 days and were attended by 90 Native American Wampanoag people and 53 survivors of the Mayflower. Now, you can look at this picture. It definitely ain't no 93 Native Americans in this pictures, but it looked like it could be very well near 50 pilgrims. And pilgrim means foreigner, by the way. I'm gonna get into celebrated nationally, get into the history, setting aside time to give thanks for one's blessing, along with holding feasts to celebrate a harvest, yada yada yada, the parenting, fasting, the communal well. They get into December 4th, 1619, 38 English settlers celebrated the Thanksgiving immediately upon landing at Berkeley Hundred in Charles City, County, Virginia. Now, if you see down here, you'll see that I was reading about the Berkeley Plantation and the Harrison family of Virginia. That's a whole nother story, but let's get here. Harvest festival observed by pilgrims at Plymouth. The Plymouth settlers, known as Pilgrims, had settled in a land abandoned when all but one of the Pawtuxet Indians died in a disease outbreak. After a harsh winter killed half of the Plymouth settlers, the last surviving Pawtuxet, Tisquantum, more commonly known by the diminutive variant Squanto, who had learned English and avoided the plague as a slave in Europe. Now, this is another big thing, right? Tisquantum, known as Squanto, was a slave in Europe, a so-called Native American. His whole alleged tribe had got wiped out, allegedly. But if he was a slave in Europe, what you think happened to the rest of them? So let's get into Squanto. Squanto was a member of the Pawtuxet tribe, best known for being an early liaison between the Native American population in southern New England and the Mayflower pilgrims who made their settlement at the site of the Squanto former summer village. The Pawtuxet tribe, they get into that. But this is supposed to be Squanto. He was kidnapped by English explorer Sir Thomas Hunt, who trafficked him to Spain, where he was sold in the city of Malaga, whatever. He was among a number of captives ransomed by local monks who focused on their education and evangelization. Tisquantum eventually traveled to England, where he may have met Pocahontas, a Native American from Virginia, 1616 to 1617. He then returned to America in 1619 to his native village, only to find his tribe had been wiped out by an epidemic. Now, when you read the story of Squanto, you're going to come across a name, George Weymouth. Captain George Weymouth in 1605 set out on an expedition to explore the possibility to settle Upper New England, sponsored by Henry, whatever his name is, and Thomas, whatever his name is. They took 5 captives. Hold up, pause. They had a chance encounter with a hunting party, then decided to kidnap a number of Indians. This was 1605. The capture of Indians was a matter of great importance for the full complement of our voyage. They took 5 captives to England and gave 3 to Sir Fernando Gorges. Gorges was an investor in the Weymouth voyage and became the chief promoter of the scheme. When Arundel withdrew from the project, Gorges wrote of his delight in Weymouth's kidnapping, and named Tisquantum as one of the 3. Then George Weymouth fell finding of a northwest passage happened in a river on the coast of America called Pemaquid, from whence he first brought 5 natives. 3 of his names were Manita, Saloros, or Tasquantum, whom I seized upon. They were all of one nation, but of several parts and several families. This accident must be acknowledged the means under God of putting on foot and giving light to all our plantations. Do you see what's going on? They planned on having these plantations in the 1600s. Let's get into abduction. 1614, an English expedition headed by John Smith sailed along the coast of Maine and Massachusetts Bay, collecting Smith went to England when the vessel left Hunt and commanded the second ship. Hunt was to complete his haul of cod and proceed to Malaga, Spain. Hunt decided to enhance the value of his shipment by adding human cargo. He sailed by Plymouth Harbor ostensibly to trade with the village of Parkside, where he lured 20 Indians aboard his vessel under the promise of trade, including Tisquantum. Once aboard, they confined and sailed the ship across Cape Cod Bay, where Hunt abducted 7 more from the Nausetts. He then set sail for Malaga, whatever. Smith and Gorges both disproved of Hunt's decision to enslave the Indian. Gorges worried more about the prospect of a war now, although he seemed mostly concerned about whether this event had upset his gold-finding plans with Epinal and Martha's Vineyard. According to Gorges, Hunt took the Indians to the Strait of Gibraltar, where he sold as many as he could, but the friars of those parts discovered what he was doing, and they took the remaining Indians to be instructed in the Christian faith, and so disappointed this unworthy fellow of his hopes of gain. No records show how long Tisquantum lived in Spain, what he did there, or how he got away for England. Prowse asserts that he spent 4 years in slavery in Spain, was then smuggled aboard a ship belonging to Guy's colony, taken to England and then to Newfoundland. Smith attested that Tisquantum lived in England a good time, although he does not say what he was doing there. Plymouth Governor William Bradford knew him best and recorded that he lived in Cornhill, London, with Master John Slane. Slaney was a merchant and shipbuilder who became another of the merchant adventurers of London, hoping to make money from colonizing projects in America, and was an investor in the East India Company. Returned to New England in 1722. Tisquantum was in Newfoundland with Captain Mason, governor there for the undertaking of the plantation. Thomas Dermer, Tisquantum and Dermer took to New England while in Newfoundland, and Tisquantum persuaded him that he could make his fortune there, and Dermer wrote Gorges and requested that Gorges send him a commission. And now they got Tisquantum giving them the information on what they gonna do after they done had him kidnapped for how long and didn't know, and who knows what they done to him. Remember, colonization is rape. Part of the act of getting people is kidnapping them and raping them. Now, it's a certain part I'm looking for. Basically, when they kidnapped many of the original people that were here, when they were kidnapping them, they were telling the people that they died. All right, let's go back to this guy, George Weymouth. The compelling part of the story is the crew's encounters with the natives, which began 11 days after the Archangel, whatever, first moored among the Georges Islands on May 30th, 1605, as the ship was anchored in Misgivings Bay, and the captain and 13 men had gone off to shallop to shore. The report tells how the remaining had encountered the afternoon hunting party that was sailing with them in over 7 days and covered their trust with gifts, then trade. See that? Encouraged their trust with gifts and then trade. On his return, Weymouth joined in the hospitality, offered the natives bread and peas which they were unfamiliar with, and amazing them with the sword magnetized with a lodestone. There it goes, amazement. After 3 days of hospitality and trading, Rozier suggested that the crew visit their homes to trade. Rozier wrote that cultivating their trust was part of the plan to colonize. Cultivating their trust was part of the plan to colonize. Once they had decided that the land was primed for European settlement, on June 3rd, as they themselves had suggested, the English set out to visit their home. They became skittish when a large assembly came to escort them and decided not to go. Rozier claimed that they then decided to kidnap a number of natives from their belief that the natives intended mischief. From their belief, they decided to kidnap a number of natives from their belief that the natives intended mischief. These things considered, we began to join them in the rank of other salvages. Wherefore, after good advice taken, we determined so soon as we could to take some of them. Least being suspicious we had discovered their plots, they should absent themselves from us. On the next day, they abducted 5 natives, 3 by duplicity, 2 by having the crewmen force the natives onto the lower decks. In discussing the forcible kidnapping of the 2 natives, Rozier noted that the kidnapping had been long planned, saying that they had resorted to harsher methods to secure their captives because the capture of natives was a matter of great importance for the full accomplishment of our voyage. The idea was undoubtedly conceived by the entrepreneurs back in England as a way to become familiar with the land and the inhabitants that they intended to colonize. The plan operated, however, at a cross purpose. With their attempt to create goodwill, Weymouth and his crew made no secret about their abductions, though among native communities they were thought to have killed instead of kidnapped the 5 natives. Not alone Weymouth's crew had left. It don't even matter. Get down here to the bottom. The native told Champlain of a group of Englishmen who had been fishing there not long before, and under cover of friendship had killed 5 natives on the area. Now you go down here, Weymouth returned to England in mid-June. All 5 of his captives were taken to England. Their names were recorded as Amoret, Tahanado, Sagamore. That's 2 Moors right there. Sagamore Manito, Skedawaros, and Sasakomi Komoet, whatever, a servant. Weymouth presented the latter 3 to Sir Fernando Gordes, whatever. So basically, they was coming over here since 1492, kidnapping people and taking them to Europe and selling them into slavery and telling people that they died. This was going on for hundreds of years before the so-called transatlantic slave trade. And now, as I said, the whole premise of Thanksgiving and many of these other so-called holidays are to celebrate military victories over the original people who were our ancestors. And many of the things that we have been told, all of these so-called legends and fairy tales, are not the truth. These things are not what really happened. So we have to stop participating in these so-called holidays, which are designed to make us celebrate our own demise and destruction and colonization. But that's all I have to say about that. At the end of the day, study origins, not history. Be enlightened. If you got any questions about anything that I said, anything, if it sparks anything in your mind, please reach out to me. Let me know what's going on. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you. Peace.